No just God would stand for what they did yesterday and what they do every single day. ISIL has no ideology of any value to human beings. Their ideology is bankrupt. They may claim out of expediency that they are at war with the United States or the West, but the fact is they terrorize their neighbors and offer them nothing but an endless slavery to their empty vision and the collapse of any definition of civilized behavior.
All right, folks, that was the president, of course, on the day we got the video with the execution of James Foley. Joining us now is Tom Rogan, columnist for the UK Daily Telegraph and National Review. Hey, Tom.
Good to be with you, Steve.
Good to talk to you as always. You wrote a great piece, A Man of Courage in ISIS's Face of Evil at National Review online. Let's talk about where we are here. You know, the denial by Obama there and the State Department subsequently that ISIS is not at war with the U.S. and vice versa. Do they not get it, or are they just not saying it, or what?
Well, I think what the real issue is that the administration doesn't want to accept the reality of the Islamic State. They're aware that their liberal intelligentsia that surrounds them is very skeptical of a greater U.S. role in confronting the Islamic State. So what they're trying to do is to navigate their way through this without actually getting serious about it. I think they are aware, but they are allowing domestic political calculations to dominate their strategic vision. It doesn't make it in any way understandable from a rational point of view, but it does make it, I mean, the simple fact this is domestic politics at work.
Absolutely. You know, and for the terrorists in that video to call out Barack Obama, I mean, that's a whole new level. And for them, notwithstanding that, to deny the obvious, it really frightens you. And now, you know, and it's being picked up, as you said, by the liberal intelligentsia. George Stephanopoulos yesterday on his show on ABC. Are we overreacting? You know, just a little while ago, the administration said ISIS wasn't a threat at all. They were JV. And now we're hearing that they're the biggest threat, more than al-Qaeda. Are we overreacting? And that seems to be what the left is coming up with. Let's not jump to conclusions here. You know, maybe they'll leave us alone, I guess, because I can't say maybe they're not so bad. So it must be maybe they'll leave us alone.
No, they are, without question, in my mind, the most serious threat the United States has faced. I think they pose even more of a serious threat in many ways than al-Qaeda did pre to 9/11. I mean, if you consider the September 11th attacks, obviously that's something that happened. But in terms of intent, the Islamic State has a desire to establish a global caliphate. The ideology is Salafi extremism to a level that is really unprecedented, even going back to the 12th century of Islam, or at least Hanbali Islam. And now they have the means to pursue that. They have a lot of European fighters, which has been talked about a lot. But the critical issue with that is that you have people who have been trained, made even more fanatic, and will be able to go home and probably avoid intelligence services in some cases, and then potentially come to the United States. And what the real issue here is that it is not complex to build a bomb. Obviously, we're not going to go into the details of that, but if you are trained in doing it and you know how to stay away from intelligence service detection, it poses a major threat. And they have an absolute desire. It's proof in the ideology. It's religious fervor driving their strategy. And the idea that somehow we're overreacting is patently absurd. And it really is.
You made a great point in your piece, something that struck me in the part of the video that we were able to air. You know, the former police commissioner of New York City, Bernie Kerik, sat here and said every American should watch that video. And you describe the video and you talk about how they made a mistake, because I saw just from while the terrorist was giving his Obama, you know, spiel and warning Obama and scolding Obama, and even when Foley spoke, to see the courage in that man, to see the fact that he wasn't flinching, he wasn't crying, he wasn't begging, he was brave, and I can't imagine that. I think you make a brilliant point that they did make a mistake.
They did, and this is why ultimately they'll be defeated. If you speak to members, which I have over the last few days, of actually one of my housemates is ex-US Air Force pararescue man, and he said, I just want to be there. And they lack both the courage and the moral courage of the United States, and ultimately that's going to be the cause of their defeat. If you look at that video, the message is of a innocent civilian, James Foley, someone who was not a soldier, having the courage to stand against them in such a significant way, to show love for his family. It is a moral contrast of the highest order in that one video. It shows everything that makes America exceptional and everything that makes them so evil. And ultimately, that is why whatever happens in terms of our strategy, in the long term, we will be successful over them. The problem is, of course, in the short term and medium term, we need a strategy that moves us more quickly to their destruction.
Right. As Bill Kristol said, we had him on right after Obama spoke in reaction to the video, and Obama said ultimately, they'll be defeated or whatever, and he said, yeah, so were the Nazis ultimately, but they kill. How many millions of people did they kill before they were? So that's just a little bit of
exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. By the way, I just want to point out Hamas keeps executing people in the town square. What gets me, Tom, to me, they're the same as ISIS, and if they could, they'd rampage through every town and kibbutz and city in Israel and behead every Jew.
Well, certainly in terms of the Israeli angle, that they are the same as ISIS. They want to purge Israel. I mean, just look at their logo. I would encourage your viewers, Steve, to go and look at their logo, which is just the whole of Israel painted green, and they would, eliminate Israelis, fundamentally anti-Semitic, and they are fanatics. But of course, they're popular because they hold this sort of Che Guevara mystique with a lot of Western liberals, which is patently absurd. But again, intellectual liberals like to present themselves as the masters of understanding of the world. But as you say, the moral absurdity of their mindset that, ISIS is not really a threat, or Hamas, we have to kind of understand them. It shows reality for what it is.
Yeah.
Hamas throw people off buildings if they don't like them.
Yeah.
That's not,
No, you're absolutely right. All right, let me ask you about the leaking of, we're also hearing reports today that ISIS wanted a prisoner swap for Foley, and I don't know if we turned it down or what level that ever reached. But for this administration to talk about how we conducted an unsuccessful raid into Syria to try to get Foley and the other hostages, that is as reprehensible, even more so, I think, and that's reprehensible. The dumb thing was saying, we may bomb Syria again, the ISIS targets in Syria. Leaking the rescue mission, what was that, just to make Obama, give him a chance to pound his chest and look good?
Yes, I think it absolutely was just that. Just exactly what we were talking about at the beginning. It is the administration's preferencing of domestic politics over and above any conception of American national security interests. It is reprehensible, and they know. The president has now been in office for a long time now. They have, met with military officials to some degree. They understand that culture, and for them to do that, to betray the men and women of the special forces community in such a significant way, and more importantly, quite frankly, in terms of the president's responsibilities as commander-in-chief, to betray the notion of American national security interests in the ways I outlined in my piece, it is absolutely inexcusable, and it is the final and fundamental proof of this administration's absolute movement away from the change narrative that they were going to change everything in Washington. This is a Washington as worse as it could be, and the president is the figurehead over it.
Yeah, and the scary part is, you talk about the liberal mindset, and but Obama's actions are reflecting that. Yet you have Hagel talking about the immense threat. You have Dianne Feinstein talking about the immense threat, and certainly people on the other side, the Republican side, saying they're more dangerous than Al-Qaeda was before 9/11. So it's kind of a paradox.
It absolutely is. That's actually what I'm writing about this afternoon, about the distinction between what the president is saying and his political staffers and the tensions with the military and others, because it's it's pretty clear that the president just doesn't want to deal with foreign policy reality.
No, I got you. Hey, Tom, great talking to you as always, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
My pleasure. All right.
Thank you, Steve.
My pleasure. All right, folks. Tom Rogan, columnist for the UK Daily Telegraph and National Review. And check out his piece, A Man of Courage and ISIS's Face of Evil, all about the video of James Foley and the unnamed Brit who beheaded him. It's a very serious situation, and we have to remain vigilant, and we have to be proactive. All right, folks, we're coming up next with, you know what? It's called Gimme 5, next on the Steve Malzberg Show.